This is the Best or Worst Podcast. And now, here are your hosts, Koji Stephen Sakai and M. Martin Mapoma.
No, go ahead.
Okay. All right, welcome. This is the Best or Worst Podcast. I am Martin.
And I am Koji.
And this is episode number 72. All right, our society is so focused on celebrity, we sometimes forget that regular people lead interesting lives too. Best or worst moment of your life? Hosts Koji Stephen Sakai.
That's me.
That's you. And M. Martin Mapoma, that's me, are here to let your story out. We put people on the spot. What are they going to hear? It could be funny. It could be poignant. It could be sad. You'll know when we know. Best or Worst Podcast is a twice weekly podcast. On Tuesdays, we get to know our guests, and on Thursdays...
Today is Tuesday.
Today's Tuesday. That's what I said, on Tuesdays.
Right.
Oh, my God.
No, I'm saying that we're just saying that today is Tuesday. Where we're
Tuesday. And then on Thursday, which is 2 days from now, we find out their best or worst moment.
And today, we are super, super excited to have director and filmmaker Asif Akbar, who is, and I'm happy to say he's the director of my last movie, The Commando, which just finished shooting last week from New Mexico during the COVID times. It was from the pictures and everything, it was crazy. I totally wish I could have been there. I'm happy to announce that today was the first day I walked across a room on my own.
I gotta say, man, your name is. I went to school with a kid named Asif. I'm from Zambia, Africa. It's Koji, and everyone here on the show knows. Yeah, but Asif Akbar. That name. I feel like your name should come with its own theme music. That's an awesome name, man.
Thank you.
Seriously, I don't mean to sound facetious at all. It's when I found out we were having you on. First of all, cool because you shot his movie, and then when I found it, I was like, damn, that's a hell of a name. That's like a lot of pressure, dude.
Tell us where.
Thank you. That's very nice, and thank you guys. I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me. And Koji, you're the best writer I've worked with, man, hands down. That's why.
Wow.
This was the beginning. I think of I know we're working on a few other scripts together that are going into fruition. So I couldn't be happier to be working with a great writer and co-producer and fellow filmmaker as yourself. So it's I'm privileged to be working with you and be here.
Yeah, Koji is a good writer. I've read a lot of his stuff, and
thank you.
It's
thank you guys. I feel like I'm being interviewed now. I'm just kidding.
I would love to. You know what, Coach? I want to do that with you one of these days. When we do one of our one-on-ones, you and me, I'm going to do that because you have stories that come out the ass, man. It's crazy.
So, Steve, why don't you tell us a little bit about where did you grow up?
I actually grew up in Cleveland, Ohio. It was a suburb about 12, 13 miles south of Cleveland called Parma Heights. And my parents are originally from Bangladesh in South Asia. And I grew up in Ohio all my life until I was 18. Right after graduating high school, 6 days after I moved out to LA to pursue my filmmaking career. And I also went to film school there in Columbia College of Hollywood in the Valley in Tarzana. And I've lived there for the past 13 years in LA, and then just recently now moved to a suburb north of Las Vegas in Nevada.
Right. Oh, wow.
That's been my journey so far.
And why Las Vegas?
It was the next best thing to living in LA without living in LA, if that makes sense. Like, I've lived there for 13 years and kind of been through the scene, and now I'm blessed to be in a position where I can pretty much live anywhere and do what I do and travel and make movies. And even like this last one, The Commando, we shot in New Mexico. At first we were thinking we would shoot it in Las Vegas, and then it changed to New Mexico, and the next 4 films I have, they're all being planned for out of LA. And it's been one of those things that, I've been married for over 5 years now, and my wife and I over the past few years have always talked about it. If we have a kid, we want to kind of live outside of LA to raise the kids and kind of, have like a new scene. So now recently I just had a baby in May. She's about to be 6 months old. So
Well,
we decided.
she had the baby, right? Not you, right?
Yes.
Sorry,
Jointly, she did all the work.
making a joke.
But yeah, so we just thought it was a good time, and with the whole um,
COVID.
pandemic and the whole
Yeah.
climate and everything going on, we wanted to kind of have a fresh start in a new scene. Which Vegas, I've always loved Vegas, but I've kind of had that wrong perception. Like I'm sure a lot of people do, that thinking of Vegas, you think, oh, Sin City, it's party city, it's about gambling and strip clubs or whatever. But I was surprised to see a lot of my friends were moving here over the past few years, and they've been like trying to talk me into it, and I've seen that they actually have some really nice, quiet neighborhoods and suburbs that are a lot like LA suburbs, but much quieter. Like you wouldn't even think this is a 24/7 party town. And I've loved it the last 4 years. So so far, I'm happy actually, and I get to go to LA every like other week. I drive out there. It's close enough to where I think if I wanted to fly, it's a 45-minute flight. If I wanted to drive, it's a 4-hour drive, same day trip and back. And I've been blessed to be able to do that and have the patience.
Awesome. Well, let's see. Did you always want to be a filmmaker, or is that something that was relatively
actually for me, I've always, that's all I kind of wanted to do, is make movies. I didn't know how I would, if I would be an actor in movies, or if I would be the director or producer or writer, or even like work as a DP or an editor. I just knew ever since I can remember my earliest childhood memories, I used to always love watching movies and TVs like anyone else. But to me, it was kind of like the fascination was what's really behind the screen, like what's in the TV. At first, I remember when I was 2 years old, I used to think, there are little people living inside of these boxes and putting on a show for us, And so as I kept growing and maturing, my conception of it kept I explored it amongst, within myself, thinking like, okay, I used to think they're real people, but they're not actual people living in the box, but they are real people. Then I started thinking like, okay, the Terminator is one of my favorites. Who's the Terminator? Okay, that's an actor, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Okay, where does he live? California. So it's like, it was such a weird dynamic, and I'm lucky to be able to remember a lot of my thoughts and memories from that time, to where I can kind of think back to how I used to think. And to me, that was always fascinating, how these people who could play so many different characters and bring these different stories to life for us. And for me, the movies never ended with the last scene. Like I always carried them on in my head, like, whatever any movie, it didn't have to be my favorite. Any movie that I saw, I would always take the characters on a, like an additional journey in my head, thinking, okay, so now that story ended, but what happens to them afterwards? And so I started like creating my own stories. And as I grew older, I first I wanted to be an actor, because I thought an actor can be a firefighter, a cop, doctor, a lawyer, a bad guy, anything they want. It's like playing, and obviously, I used to role play some characters, and I used to love WWF. So at that time, WWF. And so my friends and I used to role play and wrestle, and this was when we were kids. And then as I grew older, I got into, drama club and acting and doing theater stuff. And in my preteens, like around 12, 13, I started doing actual like productions where I was acting. And then to me, it wasn't like satisfactory enough, because thinking like, I wanted to tell my own stories. I don't want to just be the actor telling other people's stories and being told what to do and how to do it. But I'm really happy that I had that part of my experience in acting and taking classes and going through workshops. And that's something I continued on doing even throughout college, because if you can understand how actors work, you can be a better writer, a better director, everything. And that's one of the things that, you know, I believe I'm really good at working with all kinds of actors because I can kind of understand where they're coming from, and I give them the freedom to be artists and not just robots, you know, going with what's written and locked into those exact words the way they need to say it. I always tell them, you know, make it your own. Use the script as like the base, but evolve from it and do it organically and naturally to how you would say it. And I noticed it like kind of opens up a whole another side of actors where they deliver more than you could have imagined. Even one of the things I remember when I used to audition, casting directors or directors used to tell me that, you know, whenever I got cast, they would say, you know, you made me see the role in a different way than what I've imagined. And that I've kind of carried that over to when I direct myself. I try to look for that in actors, and even in auditions, I try to see what uniqueness they bring to that character. And if they can show me a whole new vision with it, then, you know, that attracts me to know, okay, they can do more than what I need them to, but I can also have them do what I need them to. But that collaboration is possible, and I love that collaboration with actors, with even DPs, writers, and you know, it's that film is the most collaborative art form.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah,
what's so
it really is. It
yeah,
really
and
is.
that's what I love about it. And so for me, you know, I had a journey of kind of leveling up from being the actor, and then I went into thinking, okay, how do I tell my own stories? And then I had to be a director and producer, which I went to a vocational program in high school when I was 15, my 15, 16, my junior year. I started this radio and television program where now I was learning how to do radio shows and TV shows and working with the local radio station, cable station, producing now at 15, 16 years old, my own shows. That's when I learned how to edit on Avid. I started, you know, using cameras and shooting and directing and working on projects outside of school. And that opened up the whole world of where, you know, there are no limits if you want to be in this business, if you want to make movies. If you can learn every aspect of making a movie or and have that conception of how the movie comes together from conception to completion, then I mean, you know, you're limitless, you know. And I was also growing up in a time where the industry was transitioning to where you can't really think about making a living doing one thing in the business. Even if you're a great actor, you can't think about just, oh, I'm just going to make my living acting forever. It just doesn't work. Same with directors, and so I started being more versatile, and I was doing some acting work. I was, you know, now starting to get directing experience. I directed my first show that was broadcasted on TV, Fit for Life, when I was 16 years old, you know. And then from there on, I just kept challenging myself to doing bigger and better projects and things that I haven't done before. Because the best way for me, and I've noticed a lot of other people in this business and creative people, is by doing it and practically. So I had the whole school experience. I went to film school, graduated, but I learned more from my practical work and experience than just reading textbooks. You know, the theory is great, but if you can't apply it in practical life, you won't really learn how it's all done.
And that's how, you know, most of life is. Asif, I have a question for you.
Yes.
As a director, do you find that what do you feel makes for a good director? Because you brought up some very interesting points, and I'm curious about that. Because you're an actor, and obviously, are you a writer as well?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I write, I direct, and I produce mostly now.
So what? So I guess the question I have for you. So what was the majority? Where was the majority of your time focused when you first started? Were you as an actor, as a director? I'm looking for the transitions. Were you an actor that became a director and then a writer, or you were an actor that became a writer then a director?
If
or is it all encompassing?
It's you know, if I think back even earlier, before I started doing it, like, professionally, I used to make movies when I was 10 years old, 11 years old, with my friends and on Handycam, and we used to role play. And at that time, when I was 10 years old, I actually made my first movie. It was a 50-minute long. It took me 7 months, but my friends and I would do it after school and during um, the weekends. And it was, I would say it was at the same time when I started doing it, like writing. I would say writing would be the first, because that's where I started creating. Because I would write stories before that, even when I was like in the 3rd grade, 4th grade, younger. I would write books, or I would write scripts in my own, like, time, and always imagine, like, oh, what if this could be done? And I would write spec scripts, like Star Wars. I was a huge fan of Star Wars, and some other cartoons, that I would actually write my own versions of scripts.
Oh, wow.
But I couldn't do anything with them. But when I was about 10, I used to actually, before that, now I think about it, I used to borrow like my family members' VHS camcorders, and those big, bulky cameras that we used to have. And I used to just film things for fun, just to experiment. But then when I was 10 years old, for my birthday one year, I said, I want to have a camcorder. I want a camcorder. So I was gifted a camcorder that then I started using to film with my friends certain scenes from things I would write. To me, that was like playing. That was fun, so that was part of what we used to do. And then I completed this film when I was 10. I started when I was 10. I completed it at 11. It was called The Psychotic Killer. And it was like my own original like story, which, obviously I acted in. And then I wrote, I directed, I even did the camera work, I did the editing. It was a tape.
Where can we see it? Is it Amazon Prime?
No, not at all.
I'm messing with you.
It's been so long. I actually only had 2 VHS copies of it, and one of my friends in Ohio had it, and then I have 1 copy which I don't have on me. I think it's in my parents' house somewhere in Louisiana.
You can't lose that. You can't lose that, dude.
Yeah, I made the cover for the VHS and everything. It was so funny. But yeah, I think there's just 1 copy left that I can probably get my hands on, but I haven't seen it myself in probably 15 years.
I would love to see it.
Yeah,
I really would.
I would say that was my start, where I kind of started it all. I mean, at the same time where I tried it out, but maybe I would say writing was the very first start where I knew I could, create my own stuff. So
sounds like
that's really cool. I because I asked that question because as an actor, a lifelong actor.
Yeah.
And my attention span has always been very short. And I've always admired, actors that were writers. I have a friend of mine that I grew up with in the acting business. We almost started together, who had written in high school and won a couple of things. And he ended up, as an actor, I guess I would say he found that for him to really get ahead in this business, he needed to write his own stuff. And once he started writing his own stuff and acting in it, his career just really took off. So I've always admired people that could write. I've always found writing to be a daunting task to undertake. I have so much respect for guys like you that do that, because in this industry, like you just said, you can't now. And Koji, you and I have talked about this, even talked about it with Adele. You have to be a triple threat. And back when I first started acting in '84, a triple threat was someone who could sing, dance, and move well. And now it's someone who can act, write, and direct. And if you can act, write, and direct, there will always be a place for you. Especially with the way the industry is now, there'll always be a place for you, and especially if you're good at it. And
absolutely.
So, I really admire you for that. And listen to your story reminds me of my good friend Rock. So it's my kudos to you. And I mean it's very heartfelt when I say that. So it's amazing to me. I'm always impressed with people that can really write, direct, and act.
So Steve, so why don't you tell us a little bit? Like, it sounds like your parents were very supportive of you. I always talk to Asian people. When I talk to Asian people, filmmakers, I always want to ask them whether their parents are supportive or whether they like become a doctor. Well, what about your parents?
No, that's absolutely right, and it's funny you brought that up because I talk about it all the time, and even with my parents, I say, I'm so lucky you guys are so supportive because, and it's funny because most of my family is like that, like you said, doctor, engineers, like that's what they want their kids to be, and that's what they are. A lot of 85% of my family, all my cousins now, everyone I grew up with, my uncles, they all are either doctors or engineers or some real estate, guys. But for me, like I was always kind of pushed from other family members and sometimes my mom at one point, but my dad was always like 100%, like, and like he gave me the option of what I wanted to be and what I wanted to do. And when he saw at an early age, I knew what I wanted to do. And it was something that he was also interested in at one point. He actually did produce some movies and worked in the industry before. And as he was growing up, he was always in the creative fields. Like he had his own theater group.
Wow.
One of his friends became a very successful actor and filmmaker in Bangladesh, who's, like a celebrity status, like one of the best in the country with national awards and everything. So he's always kind of been around that industry and understood it. So he knew like it was a big risk and it was, something, but he gave me, and he understood that there's other sides to it. And it's not just acting. He even told me, he said, if I was just going to be an actor, if I said, oh, that's all I want to be as an actor, he wouldn't have supported me. But he always kind of, inspired me and taught me that you can do more in there. And if I wanted to be a director, my chances of being a director would probably be better, or a successful director probably be better than being an actor. Or if I make it as an actor, then I could still use that platform to direct or, do other things. So he always encouraged me to just go for it. And when he saw, every year, every time I progressed, he kept supporting me more and more. And then once my mom saw I was really doing it and how much he was supporting me, she started supporting me more. But all the family members, up until I'd say maybe a few years ago, once they saw, okay, he's now making money, he's now, doing things that are, out there, making a name for himself. That's when everyone else started supporting me. Like even from my grandparents to my, aunts and uncles and cousins, now they're starting to kind of see, okay, they're inspired actually more. And for me, it was always kind of like breaking the barriers of the norm of not even within my family, but within like society. And even where I grew up in Ohio, it's not just about the culture or where we're from or our background of being Asian, but I've noticed in even Middle America, it's something like that people almost can't believe that there could be careers in entertainment or anything outside of a 9 to 5, or you know what I mean. It's not just I've noticed that it's not just in Asian cultures, but you're right, in Asian cultures especially, it's got to be a doctor or lawyer, engineer, or tech guy nowadays. Tech is a huge thing, and even up until like a few years ago, even after I graduated with a fine arts degree and have been doing this for a while, I've had some family members even say, "Are you sure you don't want to be in the tech business or tech world?" And I say, I kind of in a way am. We do work with a lot of
Oh yeah, it's all tech.
technology,
It's all techie now.
engineers, and
It's
especially
all
with
techie.
even with editing and directing and doing some of the stuff we do, even on set, it's kind of engineering. It's a blend of like everything. If you think about it, even when I went to film school, I took 2 years of psychology classes, because I like everything, science classes, math, like we had it all. Even in math, it's like, we used to think in high school, like, oh, when am I ever going to use this? But you actually use geometry, algebra, like even geometry when you're lighting. a scene.
Sure.
You know, you have to have knowledge of even basic geometry. So it's kind of fascinating, and I don't think too many people think of how much really does go into.
Yeah, there's a lot of work.
Yeah,
there's a lot of work that goes into it.
Right.
So we're at almost at the end of the show for this round. We can keep talking to you over and over and over again about this. You know, this is a great conversation.
Yeah.
You know, no, it's amazing how well rounded you are in all of this. But we're gonna wrap it up right now, and we're gonna get back to you, Asif, on Thursday to find out your best or worst. So, guys, thank you everyone that tuned in. It's been a great time. Please tell a friend about the show. Just one friend, text him, write him, call him, and tell him what we're doing over here. This is a passion project for me and Koji. We'd love to have you guys on. You know, tell your friends about it. The more we get, the happier we are. All right. Koji, what do you got to say?
No, that's it. Please make sure to tell them to subscribe to our podcast. We could be found at www.bestorworstpod.com. And thank you, Asif, and thank you, Martin. And
yeah, definitely.
We'll see everybody in 2 days. Thank you, guys. Bye.
Yeah. Thank you, Koji, and thank you, Martin. Nice to meet you.
My pleasure.
And I look forward to coming back. Have a great